Welcome back to the Rambler Sports Soccer. I'm RSL reporter Amelia Ickes here with RSL reporter Eric Moran to discuss the cancellation of Game 5 during Day 2 of Arch Madness. The game was originally supposed to be between number 2 seed Drake and number 7 seed Northern Iowa, but was canceled due to a positive COVID test. The cancellation was announced by MVC officials 30 minutes after the game was originally slated to start at 5 p.m. Eric, can you tell me a little bit more about the situation and how it unfolded?
Sure. So according to a statement by the Missouri Valley Conference, each program is required to undergo daily COVID-19 testing while at Arch Madness. A Thursday evening test showed that a member of Northern Iowa's personnel received a positive test. The Missouri Valley Conference and all the teams involved thought they would be following the same COVID policies which have been in place all season. However, unknown to the Missouri Valley Conference, the city of St. Louis had separate protocols which took precedence over the Valley's protocols.
Obviously, the cancellation of this game is a huge disappointment to both teams involved, especially Northern Iowa, who has already played a game in the tournament. Has there been any reaction from either of the head coaches involved?
Yes, so UNI head coach Ben Jacobson did an interview with WHODT. And in the interview, Jacobson said that the Valley's protocols throughout the season were that if there was a player that tested positive for COVID, but the people around the player were wearing masks and those who were deemed close contacts, that they would still be able to play. But the city of St. Louis had stricter guidelines. And because of the stricter guidelines, UNI did not have enough players to compete and ultimately had to forfeit. Now, Jacobson did say in the interview that he was very disappointed by the Valley statement and for his players.
Speaking about that statement from Missouri Valley Conference officials, what exactly did that entail? What kind of details did it include?
Probably the most important detail of the statement came from Commissioner Doug Elgin, who had this to say about the miscommunication. Quote, the MVC did not have the necessary conversations with local health officials to clarify that the administration of the tournament would be governed by St. Louis Health Commissioner's COVID orders. I apologize and take full responsibility for not resolving the administration of policies that are in place during this year's tournament.
Obviously, the cancellation of this game caught us all by surprise. So I'm kind of curious, Eric, what is your perspective as a member of the media on how the situation unfolded?
I think the thing that disappoints me the most is that the Missouri Valley Conference was able to go into a tournament unaware that they did not have the ultimate say. It's just really disappointing to see that there was this much of a miscommunication and how this miscommunication could result in something like this, having an entire team knocked out. I'm very disappointed on behalf of UNI's players, the coaches. It's just a really rough way for them to go out.
I definitely agree, and I feel the disappointment on both sides. Having to forfeit a game, especially for Northern Iowa, who's already played a game in this tournament and won, is definitely disappointing. But I do think that there has to be some sort of flexibility available just because we are operating under unprecedented times where COVID guidelines and things concerning the coronavirus change daily and change at the drop of a hat. We saw that today. Players were warming up on the court before the game was supposed to start at 5. And then they were swiftly taken off, and it seemed as though they didn't even know what was going on. And as members of the media, we had no idea what was going on until the Missouri Valley Conference issued its official statement 30 minutes after the game was slated to start. So I do feel the frustration on both ends. And as unfortunate as it is, I do think that this cancellation is what will keep all of the teams safe and make sure that the rest of the conference can go off without a hitch.
We'll be covering all of this as it develops on our RSL social media pages. Now, despite the cancellation that happened at 5 o'clock, there was still a game to be played between number 6 Valparaiso and number 3 Missouri State. Amelia, can you tell me a little bit about what happened in that game?
Yeah, so Missouri State ultimately took it. They were off to a really strong start, and they ended the first half 31-13 against Valparaiso. Valparaiso definitely struggled offensively in the first half. They went 10 minutes without bringing in any points. However, they managed to rally in the second half to bring Missouri State's lead to just 9 points at one moment, but it wasn't quite enough, and they eventually fell 66-55.
Were there any key players that stood out to you during this game?
Yeah, there was definitely one clear standout from Missouri State, and that's sophomore guard Isaiah Mosley. He scored a season high 29 points and logged a double double with 12 rebounds to boot. Just an interesting statistic to note, this game actually marked his third straight 29-point scoring game against Valparaiso. So he was definitely a superstar on the court today and helped Missouri State pull through for that win.
And Missouri State is going to go up against Drake, who has not played any game so far in the tournament. How do you think that game's going to go?
It's a tricky one to say just because we haven't been able to see how Drake has been playing in this tournament, but I will still give it to Drake based on a couple factors. The first is the fact that they haven't had to play yet in the tournament. They were off on Thursday and now they were off on Friday. And Missouri State is going to have to face them less than 24 hours after they faced Valparaiso. They're facing them at 3 p.m. tomorrow. So there's less time for them to rest in between two games. And I do think that that will give Drake the competitive edge. Also, just looking at their regular season play, Drake beat Missouri State in both of their matchups this season. So I'm going to have to give it to Drake, although it is difficult to say because we just haven't seen how they've played this tournament so far.
Thanks, Amelia. For all things Arch Madness, make sure to follow us on our social media at Loyola RSL. For the Rambler Sports Locker, I'm Eric Moran.